Welcome to Threads of Truth, a podcast where real-life mysteries meet internet speculation. It begins with a teenage girl, a night shift, and a car found wedged into the side of a house. It's an image that, well, instantly sears itself into your mind, doesn't it? A 1990 green Oldsmobile 88 backed dramatically, almost impossibly, into the side of an old abandoned farmhouse. This is in rural Sheldon, Vermont. Just take a moment to really picture that. The driver's side door is flung wide open. It's like this chilling, almost theatrical invitation, but into a void because inside, eerily, there was no one. But, and this is key, the driver's personal items were still there, left behind, like the owner just stepped away for a second, fully intending to come right back. It's a scene that just screams unanswered questions. A silent, decrepit witness to, well, a vanishing act. What could possibly lead to someone disappearing so completely, so abruptly, after just finishing a work shift on a regular Friday night? The sheer baffling abruptness of it. That's what makes this case so haunting, so enduring, and honestly, so compelling for us to explore today.
And that image, you've captured it so vividly. It really has become the defining visual of Brianna Maitland's disappearance. This very specific, very haunting visual, coupled with the initial, almost casual way the car's discovery was handled by authorities. Well, it profoundly shaped public perception. It created a challenging backdrop for the investigation that followed. And, tragically, it really impacted its early trajectory. The old Dutch burn house itself, this dilapidated, forgotten structure. It's not just a location anymore. It's practically become a character in this whole unsolved mystery, an almost symbolic backdrop to a case that has just stubbornly refused to fade away. And this enduring imagery, in turn, has made it incredibly fertile ground, both for painstaking, meticulous investigation by law enforcement and for the widespread, often frantic and sometimes contradictory online theorizing that keeps people talking about it, even now, nearly 2 decades later.
Okay, let's really unpack this then, because to understand the mystery, we first need to understand the person at its center. We're talking about Brianna Maitland. Not just a name on a missing persons file, right? But a vibrant, ambitious 17-year-old girl from East Franklin, Vermont. At the time she disappeared, Brianna was really at a pivotal point in her young life. She had a lot of potential clear goals. She was actively working 2 jobs, which, it says a lot about her sense of responsibility, her independence. She was living with a friend, Jillian Stout, in Sheldon, Vermont, a pretty common step for a young person wanting a bit more autonomy. And crucially, Brianna was deeply committed to getting her GED. She had very clear aspirations of going to college. She had plans, she had direction, she was actively building a future. And this context is just vital, isn't it? Because it immediately makes the idea of her just running away, voluntarily disappearing, seem highly, highly unlikely. This wasn't someone who seemed to be running from her life. Quite the opposite. She was investing in it, trying to make it better.
That background provides such crucial context. It truly underscores the perplexing nature of what happened next. So let's try to meticulously lay out the precise factual timeline, the events leading up to and immediately following Brianna's disappearance. We'll piece together the fragments of that fateful weekend. It all starts on Friday, March 19th, 2004. Brianna spent a significant part of that day with her mother, Kelly, and there's a small detail, almost innocuous at the time, that will later become, well, profoundly poignant. Kelly noticed that Brianna seemed distinctly agitated, or maybe shaken. This was after a brief, unspecified encounter in a store parking lot earlier that day, and this fleeting, uncomfortable moment was, tragically, the very last time her mother would ever see her daughter alive.
Wow, the last time.
Yeah. Later that evening, Brianna was at work, like usual. She clocked out of her shift at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery, Vermont at approximately 11:20 p.m. As she left, she casually mentioned her plans to her coworkers, a perfectly normal, mundane Friday night plan for a teenager, right?
Right.
She intended to go home, change clothes, then head out to visit a friend. A seemingly unremarkable end to a work week. But the next day, Saturday, March 20, 2004, that's when the ordinary twisted into the extraordinary, and the mystery truly began to deepen. Around 1:15 in the afternoon, a Vermont state trooper was dispatched. There was a report of an abandoned vehicle on Route 118. This was the very car Brianna had been driving, that green 1985 Oldsmobile 88. And it wasn't just abandoned, it was discovered backed quite dramatically into the side of that old abandoned farmhouse, the one about a mile from the restaurant where she'd just finished her shift.
Backed in, not crashed head on.
Backed in, yeah. The scene was, to put it mildly, peculiar. The car's front tires were turned sharply left. There was a piece of plywood from the decaying house resting on the trunk, and the rear bumper was partially embedded in the building's crumbling foundation. Now, what's truly critical here, and what would tragically prove to be a pivotal misjudgment in the entire case, is that the responding trooper, when he assessed the scene, made an immediate assumption. He believed it was simply a DUI, driving under the influence. Figured an impaired driver crashed and then walked away, maybe to avoid getting arrested.
Right, just assumed a DUI and walked off.
Exactly. Based on that assumption, there was no immediate suspicion of foul play. The scene wasn't treated as a potential crime scene at all. Instead, the car was simply towed away. No extensive forensic processing happened on site. It was just removed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then you have the profoundly telling personal items found inside the car. Items which immediately and powerfully contradict any idea of a voluntary departure. Inside that Oldsmobile, investigators later found Brianna's 2 paychecks. Crucial, vital documents she'd absolutely need to support herself, start any kind of new life.
Her actual paychecks.
Both of them. Also, there were her contact lenses. A small but essential daily item for someone who wore them. And her purse, which, is an absolute necessity if you're trying to leave your life behind and set up somewhere else. Her school books were also there. The very presence of these fundamental essential items, it just directly undermines, emphatically debunks any hypothesis that she willingly or intentionally left everything behind. This wasn't a planned departure. It was an abrupt and unexplained vanishing.
And this is where that agonizing period, the lost days, truly comes into play. That crucial, irreversible window when Brianna was already gone, but heartbreakingly, no one was actively looking for her because no one even knew she was missing yet. It wasn't until Tuesday, March 23rd, 2004, that Jillian Stout, Brianna's friend and roommate, got back from a trip. She found a note Brianna had left, but no sign of Brianna herself. Even then, the alarm wasn't immediately raised with the authorities.
Right. The real urgency didn't set in until 2 days later, Thursday, March 25th, 2004. It was then that Brianna's mother, Kelly, after trying repeatedly to contact her daughter, officially filed a missing person report.
And here's the truly shocking part, almost unbelievable. That added insult to injury. The Maitland family only found out that Brianna's car had been found 5 days earlier and was already just sitting in a tow lot after they saw a photograph of it at the state trooper barracks. 5 days. They didn't know the car was found for 5 days.
5 critical, irreplaceable days were lost, just due to miscommunication and that initial misjudgment about the car scene. The immediate and devastating impact of this delayed response, it just cannot be overstated. It cast a long shadow over the entire investigation. In missing persons cases, there's this golden 96-hour period.
Right.
That critical 4-day window is absolutely paramount for gathering fresh evidence, interviewing witnesses while memories are still vivid, establishing a clear, uncontaminated timeline.
And that was just lost.
Tragically, in Brianna's case, this vital window was completely squandered. Every hour lost diminishes the chances of finding someone alive and severely compromises the ability to gather crucial forensic evidence. During those lost days, critical trace evidence like fibers, hair, maybe perishable biological samples, they can be compromised by weather, animal activity, or just public interaction if the scene wasn't secured. Scent trails for canine units decay rapidly. Surveillance footage, if any existed, often gets overwritten pretty quickly. So yeah, that initial assumption of a simple abandoned vehicle, plus the lack of a timely missing persons report, it set a frustrating and challenging precedent for the whole investigation. Created hurdles right from the start that investigators would struggle with for years.
On top of the lost time, were there other immediate problems, like witnesses?
Well, yeah. Furthermore, the early investigation was severely hampered by a deluge of frustrating and often conflicting witness accounts from the night of the 19th. It's a common issue in these cases, right? Memory is unreliable, time distorts perception. Some individuals reported seeing 2 other cars near the Oldsmobile at the farmhouse. That suggests others might have been present at the scene.
Right, which immediately makes you think maybe a rendezvous gone wrong or an abduction with multiple people.
Exactly. Others claim to have seen, and this is chilling, a person's hands, specifically in the back window of the car, like maybe struggling.
Wow.
But the conflicting nature of these accounts, their inherent vagueness, and the significant delay in even collecting them, it meant they were incredibly difficult to verify. Hard to use effectively in those critical early stages.
So hard to know what was real.
Pretty much. Without immediate corroboration, these fleeting observations became more like frustrating noise than actionable intelligence, unfortunately. Despite those early challenges, investigators did diligently pursue specific avenues. One particularly significant lead emerged from what was described as Brianna's connection to a drug scene. Authorities got an anonymous tip suggesting Brianna was being held against her will in a house with two local drug dealers she supposedly knew.
Okay, that sounds serious.
It was high priority, definitely. A raid was swiftly conducted on the place mentioned in the tip. And while drugs were indeed found, confirming at least some illicit activity, there was, crucially, absolutely no sign of Brianna. So while that lead didn't directly solve her disappearance, it did, however, tragically underscore a challenging aspect of Brianna's young life, her complex personal life, which included acquaintances in a local drug scene. This became a persistent area for further exploration into potential motives. Those environments often carry inherent risks, unresolved conflicts. Yeah.
Right. And were there other major leads early on?
Well, another prominent one, largely fueled by the broader true crime community and its sort of cross-case connections, involved the notorious serial killer Israel Keyes.
Ah, Keyes. His name comes up a lot in these New England cases, doesn't it?
It does, primarily due to his known activity in Vermont around that general time period and his established MO of traveling widely, committing crimes, often burying victims remotely. Plus, his name was heavily linked to discussions around the Maura Murray case, another perplexing disappearance in rural New England around the same time. You got significant cross-pollination of theories online. For a period, Keyes was considered a person of interest.
But he was ruled out.
Yes. After diligent investigation by the FBI, including reviewing his movements, confirmed alibis, things like that, Israel Keyes was ultimately ruled out as a suspect in Brianna's disappearance. His criminal pattern, while horrific, just didn't ultimately align with the specifics of Brianna's case, especially the car scene. And there was no forensic or direct evidence linking him to her at all.
Okay. So years go by, lots of dead ends. But then there was a more recent development, right? With DNA.
Yes, despite the initial setbacks, the passage of time, all the dead ends. There was a profoundly significant DNA breakthrough in 2022. The Vermont State Police, showing relentless dedication, partnered with Othram. They're a pioneering private forensic genealogy lab. And this collaboration enabled them to successfully use advanced genetic genealogy techniques to identify the source of previously unidentifiable DNA. DNA found on an item near Brianna's car at the scene.
Genetic genealogy. That's the thing where they use ancestry databases to build family trees from DNA.
Exactly that. It doesn't directly ID someone from the crime scene sample itself. Instead, it takes that unknown DNA, compares it to public genealogy databases, the ones people use for ancestry research, and it can build out expensive family trees. It helps investigators pinpoint distant relatives of whoever left the DNA. Then they can work backward, mapping out family lines, narrowing down possibilities, and hopefully, eventually, identify the unknown person.
So did they identify someone in Brianna's case?
Well, the specific results remain largely undisclosed to the public. That's for investigative reasons, you understand?
Yeah.
It didn't immediately identify a suspect or lead to an arrest, but it was unequivocally described by authorities as a massive lead.
Wow. Massive.
Yeah. This development has powerfully reignited hope after nearly 2 decades of frustrating silence. As of, now in 2025, no arrests have been made public, but the case remains very much active. And this DNA evidence, it offers arguably the most promising avenue for resolution since she vanished.
So there's still potential there. That's something, at least. Now, when official information is scarce, or when leads dry up like they did for so long here, inevitably the internet steps into the void, right? And that has been profoundly true for Brianna Maitland's case. Platforms like Reddit, with its true crime subreddits, web sleuths, which is huge for these cases, YouTube, even TikTok now, they become incredible.
Oh, absolutely. People become deeply invested, almost obsessively so, poring over old case files, sharing theories, trying to piece together what might have happened. It's definitely a double-edged sword. It brings both valid insight sometimes, but also rampant speculation. But it undeniably plays a crucial role in keeping cases like Brianna's alive in the public consciousness, sometimes even generates new interest or perspectives that prompt officials to take another look.
So within all that online discussion, what are the main theories people focus on?
Well, within that often sprawling and energetic online ecosystem, the foul play theory is consistently and strongly highlighted. It's widely considered the most plausible explanation by many online sleuths, and significantly by law enforcement too in the later stages of the investigation.
And what's the main reason behind that?
The core reasons really revolve heavily around the scene itself. Starting with the car. The Oldsmobile's highly unusual position backed so dramatically into the abandoned house, almost deliberately it seems, rather than just crashed head-on. It's not what you typically see in a simple accident or, say, a staged runaway scenario. It strongly suggests something far more deliberate. Or perhaps a rapid, unplanned, maybe violent event that forced a sudden stop and then a departure.
Yeah, the way the car was, it just doesn't feel random.
Exactly. Then there's the incredibly compelling fact that Brianna's paychecks, her contact lenses, her purse, all left behind. These are fundamental, indispensable, personal items. Things a young woman would absolutely need if she were leaving voluntarily or planning to start a new life. The fact that they were abandoned points overwhelmingly to a forced departure, an abduction, or some unforeseen event that tragically prevented her from returning to the car. Furthermore, those conflicting witness accounts we mentioned, though frustratingly vague and hard to verify, they also heavily contribute to the abduction narrative. While we have to approach them cautiously, the idea that some witnesses reported seeing two other cars near the Oldsmobile or even claimed to see hands struggling in the back window, well, it fuels the belief that other people were present and actively involved.
Right. If other cars were there.
If there were indeed other vehicles at the scene that night, as some accounts tenuously suggest, it certainly supports the idea of an interaction that maybe quickly escalated, leading to Brianna's forced removal. And this brings us to what's often explored as the most common theory for a potential motive: her connection to that drug scene. As we discussed, Brianna was known to have some acquaintances in a local drug scene, and she also recently been physically assaulted at a party by a former friend before she disappeared. These details lead to significant speculation, especially online, that she may have fallen victim to maybe a drug deal gone wrong, or perhaps had a violent dispute with someone she knew in that social circle, which escalated into an abduction, or worse. This theory posits her disappearance wasn't a random act, but was somehow intimately connected to individuals she already knew, and possibly to activities she was perhaps peripherally involved in. And in situations like this, investigators often hit a wall of silence from people involved in illicit activities. Or they find themselves sifting through unreliable accounts clouded by paranoia or self-preservation. It makes it incredibly difficult to verify anything or break through that code of silence.
But initially, people thought she might have run away, right? Given the abandoned car, her age, why was that ruled out so quickly by police?
Yeah, that's a truly crucial distinction. Because while the runaway theory is a common initial thought in missing persons cases involving young people, it is now considered highly unlikely in Brianna's case. And it's been explicitly, repeatedly debunked by police and investigators.
Okay, why specifically?
The primary reasons against it are pretty compelling. They fundamentally contradict the very notion of a planned voluntary departure. As we established, Brianna was working two jobs, clear sign of responsibility, actively pursuing her GED, planning for college, showing commitment to her future. These just aren't the actions of someone planning to abruptly abandon their life without a trace. More significantly, the physical evidence at the scene speaks volumes. She left behind her two paychecks essential for survival. She left her car critical transportation, her purse ID, money, necessities.
Right, you wouldn't leave all that.
Exactly. People who choose to run away typically take their money, their ID, away to get around. The collection of essential items she left behind strongly indicates she did not intend to leave, or at the very least, didn't leave under her own steam with a plan to start anew. Police have since stated unequivocally they believe foul play was involved. That effectively dismisses the runaway idea and shifts the focus entirely to a more sinister scenario.
That makes perfect sense given what we know. Okay, what about other darker possibilities? Some online theorists have speculated about an accidental death theory. Maybe she was in a car accident, like a hit and run with another vehicle, and her body was then disposed of to cover it up. Does that hold any water?
Well, such scenarios are certainly within the broad realm of possibility in some missing persons cases. But this specific theory runs into significant inconsistencies when you apply it to Brianna's disappearance and the scene at the farmhouse. For one, it doesn't really fully explain the car's highly unusual backed-in position. If it were a simple, unplanned, accidental collision, why would it be placed like that, almost deliberately? Furthermore, It doesn't align well with the other evidence found, or maybe more accurately, not found at the scene. There were no immediate signs of a struggle inside the car, no visible blood, no extensive damage consistent with a violent accident or a crime scene where someone was seriously injured or killed right there. Now, could a body theoretically be disposed of elsewhere to hide a hit and run? Yes, but the complete lack of any immediate corroborating physical evidence at the car scene itself, beyond the oddly positioned vehicle and the left-behind items, makes this particular accidental death scenario less compelling than others. It's a theory that often struggles to connect all the dots, leaves too many questions about the specifics of that scene.
And then there's the more symbolic, almost cinematic theory, one that really speaks to the visual power of this case, the house crash as a message. Some online theorists firmly believe the car was intentionally staged like that, backed into the abandoned house to maybe intimidate someone, confuse investigators, or even send a very specific, dark message. It's certainly a dramatic visual.
It absolutely is. And it's a profound testament to the power of imagery in true crime, particularly in this digital age. The eerie image of that Oldsmobile embedded in the abandoned old Dutch burn house has, without a doubt, become a kind of unsolved symbol for this case. It transcends just being evidence. It's symbolic of the case's mystery in the way that words alone just can't convey. The striking visual instantly communicates a profound, unsettling mystery, an almost surreal tableau. It has been a major, if not the major, factor in fueling long-term public obsession and countless online discussions. It provides a concrete, unforgettable visual anchor for the case, one that's easily shared, deeply resonates, constantly drawing new attention and inspiring countless theories about its meaning. Especially in true crime forums, where every detail, no matter how small or bizarre, is scrutinized for hidden messages or clues, whether it was actually an intentional staging or just the chaotic result of some unknown event. The image itself has undeniably taken on a life of its own in the narrative of Brianna's disappearance. It's become a central piece of its enduring enigma.
So when we step back and analyze the whole thing, what are the biggest takeaways?
Well, diving into the broader analysis, we have to first and foremost address the systemic issues that plagued this investigation right from the beginning. That initial law enforcement slow response and the tragic, irretrievable missed early leads. This undeniably is arguably the most heartbreaking and frustrating aspect of Brianna's story. The initial delay in recognizing the scene's significance, in securing the car as potential evidence, coupled with that immediate critical assumption of just a simple DUI, it proved to be an incredibly costly misjudgment. In those critical hours and days right after she disappeared, that golden 96-hour window we talked about, valuable time, was just squandered. Potential evidence could have been compromised, degraded, overlooked. Essential witness memories might have faded or become distorted before they were even sought out. It's an invaluable and somber lesson, isn't it? How initial assumptions, no matter how well-intentioned or common, can profoundly impact the entire trajectory of a missing person's case, potentially contaminating evidence, rendering it unusable, making it exponentially harder to piece together what truly happened years later. It's a foundational challenge that cold cases often struggle to overcome.
And beyond the official response, you have to wonder about the environment itself. What role might the intricate dynamics of a small town and maybe the complex web of teenage friendships have played here? Brianna's complex personal life, her reported connection to local drug dealers, those earlier physical altercations. It paints a picture of a community where maybe secrets are harder to uncover, or where initial assumptions about people might be made more quickly. We've seen online discussions point to early fights and behavioral shifts before disappearance that could hint at underlying tensions or vulnerabilities. How do those community and personal dynamics factor in?
You're absolutely right to highlight those intricate layers. In a close-knit small town, everyone kind of knows everyone.
Yeah.
And that can cut both ways in an investigation. On one hand, it might seem like information should be easier to get, or that a missing person would immediately trigger alarms, but often it can mean the opposite. A tighter circle of silence when something goes wrong, a reluctance to speak out against neighbors or acquaintances, maybe even a fear of retribution that keeps vital information suppressed. Brianna's complex personal life and her acquaintances in a local drug scene certainly suggest she might have been navigating relationships that were, by their nature, maybe clandestine, volatile, or dangerous. When you add in those online discussions about her early fights and behavioral shifts, it paints a picture of a young woman potentially dealing with significant personal challenges or conflicts. These internal and external dynamics could mean that certain leads weren't pursued with the necessary urgency by authorities, who might have initially dismissed it all as typical teenage drama or a voluntary departure. Or, crucially, it could mean that vital information just remained contained within a closed social circle, totally out of reach of investigators, making the truth incredibly difficult to extract. That small-town fabric, combined with the challenges of investigating a shadowy drug subculture, it can create an almost impenetrable wall sometimes.
It adds so many layers of difficulty.
Definitely. And this brings us back powerfully at the profound impact of the haunting photo, that indelible, almost artistic image of the Oldsmobile stuck in the crumbling old Dutch burn house. This single visual has played an enormous, almost gravitational role in fueling long-term public obsession with the case. It's more than just a piece of evidence. It's become this enduring, concrete, unforgettable visual anchor. It instantly communicates profound, unsettling mystery, like certain iconic crime scene photos or maybe last known images. This picture continuously draws new attention to Brianna's case, embeds it deeply in the collective memory of true crime enthusiasts and the public. It ensures that even decades later, people are still compelled to ask questions, to scrutinize details, to seek answers, driven by the sheer visual enigma of that scene. It's a constant, silent question mark that just refuses to be ignored.
But despite the initial setbacks, the frustrating passage of time, all the challenges, this case, like many cold cases today, has found a powerful, maybe unexpected ally. Modern technology and the dedicated, tireless efforts of online communities. We've seen the incredible, almost transformative power of the internet and DNA in keeping cases like Brianna's alive and injecting new hope. There are dedicated Facebook pages, powerful TikTok awareness campaigns reaching new generations, detailed YouTube documentaries dissecting every angle, and of course, the continued forensic work like that Othram partnership.
Absolutely. The internet has truly revolutionized cold case work. It's fostered this global community of amateur sleuths, advocates, armchair detectives who, through collective effort and shared passion, simply refuse to let these cases be forgotten. And it's not just Brianna's case. It's a powerful pattern we see with other long-standing mysteries. Think about the eventual IDs in the Lyle Stavic case or Benjamin Kyle, where genetic genealogy and online collaboration made all the difference.
Yeah, those were incredible breakthroughs.
And speaking of significant connections, Brianna Maitland's disappearance is often discussed alongside the Murray disappearance. While they are two entirely separate cases, their striking proximity in time, both early 2000s and their shared location in that rural New England setting, it naturally leads to significant cross-pollination of theories and online attention. Both involve a young woman, a mysteriously abandoned car, a chilling vanishing act. It naturally draws comparisons and shared investigative energy from the vast online true crime community. People try to find patterns or common perpetrators in what might just be unrelated tragedies.
But as much as we dissect the facts, the timelines, the theories, it's so crucial, isn't it, to bring it back to the very real and enduring human cost of Brianna's disappearance. This isn't just a puzzle for us to solve from a distance. It's a living nightmare, a gaping wound for her loved ones. The story of Brianna Maitland is, at its heart, primarily the story of her family's relentless, almost unimaginable search for answers.
That's exactly right.
We have to acknowledge her father, Bruce Maitland. He's been such a tireless, unwavering advocate for his daughter for 2 agonizing decades. His dedication, his refusal to give up, and the Maitland family's profound ongoing pain. It just underscores the deep empathy required when discussing these cases.
Absolutely. They've participated in countless interviews, organized searches, worked tirelessly with law enforcement, endured a lifetime of uncertainty, all in the desperate hope of bringing Brianna home, or at least finding out what happened. It's a constant, sobering reminder that at the heart of every mystery is a real person and a grieving family whose lives are forever defined by a question mark.
And it's that relentless advocacy, that unwavering commitment from the family that helps ensure cases like Brianna's continue to get attention. And crucially, new resources, renewed investigative vigor.
Precisely. Which brings us back to that profoundly significant development from 2022. The FBI and Vermont State Police conducting new, highly advanced DNA testing on items from the scene in partnership with Othram. This collaboration, leveraging cutting-edge genetic genealogy, successfully led to the identification of a DNA source from an item found near Brianna's car. Now, while the specific results, including the identity of that DNA source, remain undisclosed for investigative integrity, it provides a tangible, current lead, a genuine glimmer of hope for resolution.
It's the most concrete thing in years, really.
It really is. It's a testament to the persistent efforts of both law enforcement and the family that these remarkable advancements in forensic science are finally being brought to bear on such a long-standing, deeply perplexing mystery. It offers the most concrete path forward in almost 2 decades. The fact that after so many years, new scientific insights are still possible, it speaks volumes about the evolving nature of cold case work.
What story does a car tell when the driver is missing, and what happens when no one listens soon enough? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? How quickly a fleeting glance can turn into a lost opportunity. How a physical scene can become a silent scream for help.
Brianna's case, with its stark imagery and profound delays, it truly compels us to reflect on the immense, often irreversible role of initial perceptions in investigations. It highlights the subtle but powerful influence of small-town community dynamics on the flow of information, and it stands as a testament to the unwavering, persistent efforts of both family and those burgeoning online communities in keeping long-term missing persons cases alive. It reminds us that every detail matters, every moment counts, and that the search for truth, no matter how long it takes, it's a vital human endeavor.
We encourage you to share your thoughts, your insights, and help keep the conversation going by reviewing, sharing, and connecting with us on social media. We revisit a brutal lakeside mystery that shook Finland in 1960, 3 teens murdered in their tent, 1 survivor, and decades of unanswered questions. Join us for the chilling case of the Lake Border murders.